You're tired, but it's not the world you're tired of. It's the constant fight to escape yourself. Deepak Chopra once said, "There is no true healing until you stop hiding from your own truth." And in this video, you're going to understand why your pain keeps coming back and how that understanding can become a turning point if you let this message reach you fully. There's something you might not have been able to name yet, but you feel it. It's not quite pain. It's not exactly sadness either. It's more like a heavy silence that shows up when you're alone, or that discomfort that lingers even on days when everything seems fine. It's like you're present, but absent from yourself. Maybe you don't talk about it with anyone. Maybe you wouldn't even know how. But deep down there's a part of you that knows you've been drifting away from yourself for a long time. And this didn't just start now. It began the moment you realized that showing your true self hurt, being too sensitive, feeling too much, speaking too much, wanting too much. It made people uncomfortable, so you started hiding. You hid your pain, you hid your desires, you even hid your intuition. And little by little, without realizing it, you created a version of yourself that was easier to accept, stronger, more put together, quieter. And that version worked for a while. It protected you, helped you fit in, earned you praise and respect. But it came at a cost. You lost yourself inside it. Deepak Chopra wrote, "The deepest pain is not what was done to you. It's what you do to yourself in order to be accepted." And maybe that's what you've been feeling lately. An emptiness that won't go away. An irritation with no clear cause. A body that screams even when you insist everything's fine. But it's not. It can't be fine when your soul isn't being heard. And you know that. You know because you feel it, even if you can't explain it. Running from yourself isn't something we choose. It's something we learn. You didn't run because you wanted to. You ran because you needed to protect yourself. You ran because it was the only way you knew to survive. But now, maybe you're ready to come back. And coming back? It's not pretty at first. It's awkward. It's painful. Because it means facing everything you had to bury. It means seeing how much you silenced yourself. How much you betrayed your own truth. How hard you tried to keep up an image while something inside you was begging to be real. And maybe you don't even know where to begin, because the fear of facing yourself can be just as big as the desire to be free. But listen to this. You don't need to rush. You just need to stop. Stop running, stop pretending, stop abandoning yourself. Healing doesn't start when everything gets better. It starts when you decide to stop running. And it's in that moment, when you let yourself be with yourself, unfiltered, unmasked, unguarded, that the truth starts to rise. And the truth, the one you feel deep down but are afraid to face, doesn't want to punish you. It wants to set you free. But for that, you have to be brave enough to listen. That's where the next step of the journey begins. Facing your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, because that's the only way real healing can begin. Facing the truth isn't a simple act. It's an act of quiet courage, because your truth, not someone else's, has the power to tear down everything you built just to seem okay. At first, it may feel like everything's getting worse. You realize how many choices you made out of fear. You remember all the yeses you said when your whole body was screaming no. You see how far you've drifted from yourself, trying to be everything for everyone else. And it hurts. It hurts because behind that version of yourself, the one you held up for so long, is someone who just wanted to be held. There's a you that's tired of carrying the world, tired of being strong, tired of pretending to be okay. But even though it hurts, this is the right kind of pain. The kind that doesn't pull you further away from yourself, but brings you back. Because this isn't the end. It's the beginning of reconnecting with your soul. Deepak Chopra says, you can't heal what you can't feel, and you can't feel what you keep denying. Denial became a habit. You learned to stay quiet, to rationalize everything, to hide your falls behind phrases like, I'm fine, or it's all under control. But deep down, your soul knows it's not. And here's what matters most. It doesn't blame you for any of it. It's not here to punish. It just wants to be heard. It wants you to pause, turn inward, and say, yes, there's something here that hurts, and I'm willing to feel it. This gesture changes everything. It doesn't fix everything at once, but it shifts the starting point. Because now you're no longer trying to fix the pain. You're giving it space to speak, and in that space, the answers begin to emerge. Not ready-made answers, but clues, feelings, small truths that surface when you stop running. You start to notice what weighs you down, what drains you, what no longer resonates with your truth, and at the same time you begin to feel a new clarity rising from within. A kind of remembering of who you were before you shaped yourself to fit the world. That's what self-honesty is. It's not harsh. It's not self-judgment. It's seeing yourself with depth. It's looking in the mirror and saying, I betrayed myself in certain moments. I forced myself to stay where my soul wanted to leave. I abandoned myself trying to be accepted. And that's okay. You didn't know how to do it differently, but now you do. Now you feel it, and that's all you need to begin, because truth doesn't require perfection. It requires presence, and presence means being with what is. Even when it's uncomfortable, you'll feel fear. You'll feel doubt. You'll want to run back to the familiar, but once the truth appears, it doesn't go away. And thank God for that, because it becomes your guide, not toward some ideal version of life, but toward a truer place within yourself. And from that place, everything starts to change. Your relationships change, your words change, your choices change. Not because you're trying to become someone better, but because you're finally becoming whole. And wholeness has power. It doesn't try to convince, but it transforms everything around it. It doesn't seek approval, but it draws respect. It doesn't scream, but it's impossible not to feel it. In this new space, you begin to realize you don't need to force anything anymore. Not in yourself, not in others. You just need to inhabit what you feel. And when you do that, when you stop negotiating with your soul, you begin to live with a lightness that once felt impossible. A lightness not because everything is fixed, but because, for the first time, you're no longer fighting against what you feel, and that's the freedom that starts to emerge. Not the freedom of control, but the freedom of finally being with yourself. Truth, then, stops being a burden and becomes your foundation, and from that foundation, the next step is born, the ability to inhabit your own life, fully present. No more running, no more rushing, no more masks, being with yourself. It sounds simple, but it might be one of the most challenging acts on this journey, because running became a habit. You ran from silence, from discomfort, from truth, from anything you couldn't control. You ran from the things that revealed where you were still hurting, but now something's shifted. After facing the hidden truth with courage, you begin to realize you don't want to run anymore. You don't want to escape, because running from yourself is like trying to outrun your own breath. It exhausts you. It suffocates you. It makes you sick. And it's exactly at this point that presence starts to become possible. But don't mistake presence for the absence of pain. Presence is the courage to stay, even when it hurts. It's the willingness to be with what is, without trying to force it into shape. Deepak Chopra says, consciousness only blossoms when you stay present with what once made you run. And staying doesn't mean having all the answers. It means not abandoning yourself when your mind starts to panic. It's breathing even when you're scared. It's feeling even when you don't understand. It's trusting even when you can't see. And you know what happens when you start to be present with what you feel. The things that once seemed huge begin to dissolve, not because they vanish, but because you stop fighting them. You Notice anxiety rising, but now you welcome it. You feel sadness creeping in, but instead of hiding it, you listen. You sense fear surfacing, but you no longer need to act from it. You're there, whole, for the first time in a long time. And in that space of presence, something deep begins to happen. Transformation. Not a forced transformation made of goals and effort, but a quiet one, born simply from being with yourself. No noise, no performance, no need to be anything other than what you are. And little by little, your inner world begins to shift. Your emotions take on a different rhythm. Your thoughts lose their grip. Your body responds with more ease, because now it knows someone is finally home. Presence is this. It's you returning to occupy your own place. A place that was never truly lost, just left empty while you tried to be everything for everyone, except yourself. And it's not a heroic act. It's a daily gesture. You begin to choose more intentionally, to say no with more confidence, to rest without guilt, to listen to silence without panic. You stop living on autopilot and start living in reality, and that changes everything. Conversations become more honest. Relationships become lighter. Choices become more aligned. You no longer need to prove yourself all the time, or explain everything, or force meaning into things that no longer touch your heart, because now you're present. And when someone is truly present, the world around them feels it. Your presence transforms, not because you're trying to change anyone, but because you're so in tune with your own truth that it naturally radiates something new, something real. And truth has a frequency. People begin to draw near, not for what you offer, but for who you are. And those who can't handle your true presence drift away. And that's okay. Because now you're no longer living to maintain ties that hurt you. You're living to respect yourself, to honor yourself, to listen to yourself. And in that listening, you begin to recognize something that had been asleep inside you, your essence. It doesn't come with slogans. It doesn't shout. It whispers. And in the quiet of presence, you start to hear it, to feel who you are, when you're not trying to be anyone else, to reconnect with the version of you that existed before the pressure, the demands, the masks. That's the gift of presence. It doesn't give you control, but it gives you back the truth. And when you're in truth, even without knowing what comes next, you are at peace. And from that inner peace, life begins to reorganize itself on the outside. Not because everything magically gets better, but because now you are whole on the inside. And wholeness changes everything. There comes a moment, after all the silence, the feeling, the presence, when you begin to notice something different. It's not euphoria, not a sudden explosion of meaning. It's something subtler, a peace that doesn't depend on anything else to exist. You still don't have all the answers, but you don't need them like before, because now something inside you has settled, as if finally you've come back to inhabit your own body, your own soul. It's strange to look back and realize how long you lived outside yourself, doing, saying, tolerating, performing, without asking, is this mine? Does this come from me? Or am I just repeating what I was told? Now, the questions have changed. You don't want to be part of everything anymore. You want to be part only of what has soul. You want to be in places where you can be whole without splitting, silencing, or shrinking yourself. And that changes how you live, not because the world got lighter, but because you became more real. Deepak Chopra writes, "Peace doesn't come from having everything resolved, but from living without abandoning yourself." And you feel that now, even on hard days, even when fear still shows up, even when old wounds still sting a little, because now you don't run anymore. You stay, you hold, you listen, and that alone is healing in motion. Integration isn't an event, it's a slow, quiet process. It's when the truth you accessed begins to settle into your body. not as a theory, but as a posture, as a way of being in your daily life. You begin to act differently, not because someone told you how to be, but because now you feel what's right for you. You no longer need to shout or prove or control. The truth is alive now, and it does its work. It guides, it clears, it directs. And in this new state, you finally feel what it's like to be at home within yourself. You look at your choices with more kindness. You forgive yourself more easily. You accept that parts of you are still healing. And that's okay. Because now you understand, it's not about being perfect, it's about being whole. And that is enough. And the most beautiful part is this. When you're whole, life starts to find you. People begin to show up who recognize you by your frequency, not your appearance. Situations arise that don't demand effort, just presence. And even challenges feel different. You don't run from them, you listen to them. You begin to understand that everything that comes your way is here to align you even more deeply with who you are. There's no more wasting energy trying to be what others expect. Now your only question is simple. Does this bring me closer to myself or further away? And that question becomes your compass. It organizes your relationships, clears out the excess, removes what was only distraction, and reveals what truly matters. You're no longer trying to return to who you once were. You realize that even that was just a version, a character. Now, you're becoming something you may have never fully been before. Yourself, without fear. And even if no one claps for that, it's worth everything. Healing didn't arrive like a finish line. It showed up as a state of being, an inner space where everything can exist. Pain, joy, doubt, silence, and none of it pulls you away from yourself. That's your center, the place where you truly meet yourself. And from there, everything around you begins to realign. No rushing, no pressure, no more escape. You're here and you're whole, and that changes everything. If you've made it this far, take a breath. It's not a coincidence. Maybe your soul has been waiting for this moment. This pause, this mirror, this listening. Maybe, deep down, all you needed was a reminder. You don't have to abandon yourself to keep going. Today, your healing doesn't depend on big answers. It begins the moment you choose to stay with what you feel, to stay with what is, to stay with yourself, even when everything still feels uncertain. And if this message touched you, I invite you now to a small practice, just for a few seconds. Close your eyes, place your hand over your heart, and whisper gently to yourself, I return to me, and I choose to stay. If that phrase held you, write it in the comments. I choose to stay. It's not just a phrase, it's a portal, the beginning of a new way of living. If this video walked with you today, leave a like. That helps this message reach other souls who are tired of running. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, and turn on the notifications, because here, each video is a return to what's most true within you. And remember this, you don't have to chase healing, it's already happening. Every time you choose not to run from yourself anymore. See you in the next video with more truth and more presence.